everybody, and today's vlog is all about what I've been thinking about over the last, well, few days really. It occurs to me that now we've got the motorhome and we've had it upgraded with two leisure batteries, so we've got two 95 amp hour batteries, so there's 190 amp hours, so we can run one device for an hour that draws 190 amps or thereabouts. That's theoretically, of course that's not the way it works, but it's essentially what I'm thinking about there is how we could live off grid without an electric hookup, because at the moment, and pretty much everywhere we've stayed, we've had a little cable that plugs into the side of the caravan, or now the motorhome, plugs into an electricity supply that comes off of the national grid and supplies the van with 240 volt electricity. Most of the stuff in the van is now, well, certainly in Jasmine Mire, the motorhome is 12 volt, right down to the TV. We bought a sort of travel TV, and that runs from a 12 volt supply, so all the lights around are 12 volt. They're low voltage LED lights, so they work really bright. I mean, that, you know, it's about 10 o'clock in the evening, it's very dark outside, and I've got the lounge lights on, and that's what's lighting me now. I could put extra lights like so, that brightens it up a lot, but I think that's too bright. But that's just the lights in the ceiling there. So the lights are bright, but they're 12 volt running off the leisure battery. Our kettle for boiling water does not run 12 volt. That's a 240 volt kettle. I think it's 800 watts. You need sort of more wattage to boil water quickly. I'm not quite sure how that bit of the electricity works, but anyway, it's 240 volt and it doesn't work when we're not plugged in to the hookup. So all of the 3-pin plugs, when we unhook from the land-based or national grid, none of them work. Of course, when we're driving along, we want to charge up our phone or iPad or whatever, it's okay, because we can plug into either the 12 volt outlet with a USB adapter or the dashboard USB slot, and we can just charge up through that way. Now that all works fine until you sort of park and then want to either boil a kettle. Well, that's okay, because we've got gas on board, so we can light a gas. We've got a gas kettle, not a gas kettle, it's a normal old styley kettle. You put water in it, put it on the gas, and it boils. So that's okay. So we can make tea and coffee. All the other things, like the electric kettle won't work. The little Tassimo coffee maker won't work. That's 240 volt. My laptop standard block charger will not work. That's 240 volt. I think, well, I know I can get an adapter for that will plug into 12 volts. So the laptop will charge from 12 volt. iPad will charge from 12 volt. My camera batteries, that's a 240 volt charger. I think I could probably get a 12 volt charger to charge it. After all, they're only batteries, and they're pretty low voltage, so they wouldn't need much to charge them up. The fridge can run off the leisure batteries, although I'd probably run it from the gas if we were off grid for a bit. So although it's not a big inconvenience, it is sort of niggly. So you'll see, I've sort of been thinking about these things, and the reason I had a solar panel put on the roof and the extra battery was so that we could have longer with light and a TV. You know, our mobile broadband is USB chargeable, so we could charge that from the leisure batteries. So we could use that all the time, charged up from the leisure batteries. There isn't really much else. So the phones, the iPads would be okay. The mobile internet thing would be okay. Our leisure batteries get charged up while we're driving along, and they get trickle charged during the day from the sunlight on the solar panel, so that works. But what if we were off grid for a bit more of an extended time, or we wanted those, you know, the electric kettle and charge my camera batteries and, you know, all sorts of stuff like that? Well, it's a couple of things you can do. You can have more leisure batteries, so you can have like a bank of 4 or 5, maybe 100 amp hour, so you get 500 amp hours, and you run those through something called an inverter, which takes that DC current, direct current, from the battery, from 12 volt, turns it into 230 volt, 240 volt AC, standard ring main type electricity. But then you need something that's actually quite expensive at that point. And to keep those batteries really topped up, you need a whole load of either solar panels, or you can run some sort of generator for a little while. Maybe you need to run the generator for an hour to charge up your batteries, and then draw those over 5 or 6 hours. Because I did work out that we would need, when we were in the caravan, I worked out all the kit we had going there was, and this included the sort of TV recording box, which was by far the biggest electricity user. It was on all the time, had a hard drive in it, always running, blah blah blah. You know, crazy amount of amps to draw. Including that, we needed 114 amp per day. Now, that's a lot. So if we're drawing 114 amps, no, it was 142 or something like that. We would need like 10 batteries, I think. I worked it out. It was a lot of batteries for the amount of amps we were drawing. But if you take away that TV recorder box, it came down to something much more central, like 20 amps a day, which you can survive off of a couple of batteries. But you need to really run the low power things as much as you can. So while I was looking around for sort of generators and solar panels and sort of, anyway, I came across these they're called solar generators, but they're sort of portable. I think what they are is, well, I know what they are. They're actually a nicely packaged up battery with 240-volt outlet, USB outlet, 12-volt outlet, and they charge from to almost any source. So you can plug a solar panel into them, you can plug them into electricity supply to charge them up. But the biggest one, they call it, I can't remember the name of the company. Let me just find that. Yeah, so it's the Goal Zero Yeti series of solar generators. Now, they look like really great products. So they're nicely packaged. They've got handles on top. They look sort of ruggedized. I'm not sure they are, but they're silent. They operate like a generator. So you pick them up, you take them with you. You can plug anything in, and like your kettle, your microwave, your toaster, whatever you've got to plug in, 3-pin plug, you can plug into this. They call them solar generators. They're called the Yeti, and the Yeti 1400. Now, the price on these things is massive. The Yeti 1400, which has two 240-volt outlets, I think 3 or 4 USB charging outlets, a couple of 12-volt outlets, and so on. Really great looking product, but it's about £2,300, and it's not a generator. It does not generate electricity. It's a solar, well, it's a storage, it's a battery. So a solar generator is a bit disingenuous. It's not a generator, because what I was looking for was one of these little sort of either petrol or diesel operated generators that I could then pop outside, plug it into the hookup, start it up, have it go for a couple of hours, and I understand maybe they use about 1 litre of fuel an hour on full load. Then bear in mind this wouldn't be on full load, so I'm thinking it'd be quite cheap to run. But then that would fully charge the batteries while it was running, and I could use all the standard 3-pin plugs around the motorhome just as normal. And that's okay if you're doing a little bit of wild camping, no one else around and no one else to hear your, I think they run about like 70 dB, 70 decibels. Reasonably quiet, but they're running. And people around you would know they're running. Which is that's what attracted me to these Yeti solar generators. You charge them up, and you can plug stuff in. They do smaller ones, obviously, and they do like a tiny one for about 300 quid, which might be worth getting and trying. They also do, these Goal Zero people also do a whole range of products, like if you want a solar panel to charge your phone, they do this lovely fold-out case. It's a big sort of double solar panel that it's got hooks on, you can hang it up, but it's got a couple of USB outlets. You can plug your USBs in to charge your phones up, and that might well be the sort of thing that I look for. I'm also thinking that what might be a great idea is dotted around, maybe next to the plug, the 3-pin plug that I've got in the lounge that this iPad's plugged into almost permanently these days, put a couple of USB outlets there, so that would then run off of the 12-volt leisure, not the hookup. So I'd need different wiring to come to those to run the 12-volt off of the leisure batteries, and maybe, you know, a couple of USB charging points elsewhere. That might be quite a good idea, because, you know, I mean, the TV runs when we're not on hookup. That, so I get, yeah, actually might be a good idea to have those sort of USB charging points over this side. There's space for it up on this column, so we could have them maybe in there, or just next to the TV, so, you know, the phones could go on the shelf there and charge up all the time. But that's the sort of thing that I'm thinking about when we really do start to get into our travelling more and want to go off grid a bit more, or we don't want to pay for electric hookup. You know, as you'll probably know, I mean, we're working, so we sort of took a year off and came back to work. We do this part-time job on the caravan site that is such a fantastic place, and we love actually working here. We do really love it. It's great, but at some point we will reach retirement and pension age. We may still be working here then, I don't know. We may not, we may, you know, who knows? No one knows what tomorrow brings. But at some point we'll have that, we've got a stock of money, and that's fine. We've got our income, great. But when we get to pension age, that income gets very limited. If you're just on a pension, you're limited to that, and it doesn't go up much, and you don't have any real control over that. So at that point, we're going to need to really keep a lid on all of that expenditure, which we're trying to do now. Sometimes with some of the stuff we spend, it might not seem like that, but we do try and, we've had a bit of madness go on with buying various things, and we might still do that, but they're all things we think are useful and nice to have to make our lives pleasant, which is really important. So we want to. I'd like to be as self-sufficient as possible, and I know what's possible is complete self-sufficiency. You don't need, well, it isn't actually, because if you want to drive anywhere, you've got to buy a diesel. If you want to use gas, you've got to buy gas. I can't make my own diesel. I can't make my own gas to put in there, and I can't make I can make my own electricity, because I can buy a solar panel or I can drive, which generates electricity. So as self-sufficient as possible in terms of that power usage. That would be really nice to get to that position where we think, we don't pay for electricity anymore. That would be really nice. And having a sort of free way to generate electricity, and at the moment I think that is solar panels. I really do. I've done a lot of research, and if you've watched some of the earlier videos where I was talking about what we're going to do when we get a narrowboat, this exactly sort of fits in with that sort of thinking. And with the narrowboat, you get more space and you can carry more weight. So having a bank of 20 batteries, so if you had 20 100 amp hour batteries, you've got 2000 amp hours, and that you can live on that all day, with and be nowhere near pulling the batteries down below where they ought to be. And then having 4 or 5 250-watt solar panels that would, even at the worst times of the British winter, you'd still sort of trickle charge those batteries. You wouldn't be able to, live off those for days without them having a bit of sunshine. But these days, we're never in that situation. Even through the winter, there's a few hours of UV, which is what solar panels work off, enough to pull those batteries back up to a position where you can, be economical with the lights, but have them, you can have them on, you can watch TV, you can run your laptops, you can run your phones, you can run lights and a kettle and so on. And then in emergencies, have that sort of petrol or diesel generator or the boat engine to give it a bit of a boost up. That's sort of where we're going to be with the boat, and I don't think that's entirely possible with the motorhome, because it won't carry the weight that you need. You need all those batteries. You need you need a good few solar panels at high wattage to pull the sun through to charge those batteries up, and there just isn't the space that you have on a boat that on the motorhome. So I think going for, if we were going to do more off grid, I think a little generator just to give us a boost up is probably where we'll end up going, rather than one of these Yeti solar generators from Goal Zero. Although I do think the Goal Zero kit looks gorgeous. Go have a look, do a Google search, look for Goal Zero solar generators. Anyway, that's a sort of techie talk update on our thinking about what we're looking to do and how we'd live off grid should we ever get to that position where we could or wanted to do a bit more of that. So that's it for the day. Well, that's the techie talk. What we've been working today, and I've been out again on the ride-on Toro lawnmower and doing a bit more strimming with the sort of petrol strimmer thing. So that's all been good fun. Yeah, and it's been better because I've actually been wearing ear defenders, and maybe I'll pop and some gloves, and some protective gloves as well. So I'll put some pictures on Twitter of my gloves and my ear defenders. Oh, I've got some goggles as well. Look out on Twitter, Go RV Living on Twitter, and you'll see pictures of me in my finery. Well, they call it PPE, personal protective equipment. Anyway, that's it for today. We'll see you again tomorrow with some more wonderful news about what we're doing in the world of full-time RV living, which is sort of what we do.